FDIC.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
Fall is here, which means it's time to dive into a new lineup of autumn flavors at Wings and Rings. Your home away from home during football season. Their all-star lineup of wing sauces is adding 2 new impact players, curry garlic and pumpkin chili. Need something delicious before kickoff? How about starting your meal with their brand new chorizo nachos and loaded fries? You better act fast. These new tastes of autumn won't be here long. So make the trip to one of their 2 Lincoln locations today on O Street or Village Lane.
On the farm from dawn till dusk, hardworking hands tend to the land, equipment, and the animals. But your hard work deserves a little relaxation too. Visit the Nebraska Ag Expo, December 10th through the 12th at Sandhills Global Event Center in Lincoln. See all the latest ag innovations in livestock and equipment, precision ag, drone, and AI tech, crop inputs, grain storage, and more. Take a break from the daily grind and recharge at the Nebraska Ag Expo. You deserve it. Sponsored in part by Farm Credit Services of America and Ag Direct.
If you're sick of catering from the same places every month, it's time to switch things up. Mulberry Barbecue is perfect for business lunches and dinners, family gatherings, holiday parties, wedding receptions, rehearsal dinners, and so much more. Delivery and full service options are available, and they can cater for anything from 10 people to 500 people. Call them at 402-937-7114 to look at their menu options and get your catering booked today. Mulberry Barbecue, located at 11th and Cornhusker Highway.
Welcome in to the Corner 3, taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NAAC to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
That's right. Welcome in. It is the Corner 3 radio show podcast, whoever it is you're consuming this. We appreciate it wherever it is you find your podcast, or if you're listening live, you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Allo Channel 961. I am not alone. Joined by the host of the Stretch Big podcast, credentialed Nebraska basketball media member, Jacob Bigelow. Welcome back, man.
What's up, man? It's been a little bit. Happy to be back, though. You're never alone. You're never alone, but yeah, like
sometimes
that,
physically, if not in spirit.
Yeah, so. Like that song. It's been a while, but I'm happy to be back with you, man.
So Ellie, our intern, was on the board wearing Creighton before. You're wearing St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm a Royals fan. So good for you. I'm not going to make you flip your sweatshirt inside out like I made Ellie flip her sweatshirt inside out.
Hey, man, it's tear it down, rebuild time for that baseball team. I'm just waiting for the push notification of Nolan Arenado getting traded, and then the greatest letdown era of my baseball fandom can come to a close.
Let's not pretend like you didn't get Nolan Arenado on the cheap, because the Colorado Rockies are maybe the biggest dumpster fire organization in all of sports.
Oh, I can't thank them enough for that. That remains a fact. But yeah, no, baseball. Baseball fandom for me is it's not just on the back burner. It's in the drawer under the oven. It's just hanging out until it needs to be used for a bundt cake or something. Whatever goes in the drawer on your oven.
Respect. We are not here to talk baseball, though. We are here to talk some college hoops, as we do every Friday at 6 here on Ticket. 402-464-5685. It's conference challenge season. Before we get into major specifics of where you were at earlier this week in the ACC SEC challenge, do you miss the Big Ten ACC challenge? Do you miss the Gavitt games?
I do. I miss both of them. And I know that I know Nebraska fans, when the Big Ten ACC challenge went away, they weren't too torn up because it felt like every year they were playing Boston College or Clemson. And the one year Miami came to Lincoln was pretty cool. But other than that, it was, my first road trip actually as a college basketball manager was to Clemson for the Big Ten ACC challenge, which is, in the middle of nowhere. If you don't know Clemson, you can't land
Little old Clemson,
you
baby.
can't land a plane within an hour of that campus. That is I doubt that that's changed in all those years. But I do miss them, man. I miss both of them, and obviously, the Big Ten. Big Ten doesn't have. Did they have a challenge series
No,
right
because
now?
Gavitt games are done.
Because the Gavitt games are done. So it's just the run of private school, Catholic school, interstate rivalries that are throughout the Big Ten that are the closest they come. But I will be honest, I do kind of miss them because I feel like they're the meme of Squidward in the window watching ACC, SEC, and Big 12, Big East, and I know there's still Big 12 SEC later in the season too.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Big Ten's kind of just looking out the window at it right now.
Couple missed opportunities. I maybe get why the league let it get on the back burner, but they got to get back on it sooner than later. It's just so good to draw eyeballs to the sport. Again, you're not getting a Nebraska Clemson matchup in prime time. Especially, that'd be a fun matchup now, right? This Nebraska team versus. I haven't laid this take on you. I've given it to other people. Ian Schifflin is a Wisconsin player. He is a Purdue player. He is a Northwestern player.
Oh, yeah, no.
The fact he will never be a Big Ten player is a small travesty, but also probably for the best.
Oh, where he could also play at Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
He was watching that Clemson Kentucky game. I'm like, this feels like Jordan Murphy. Remember Jordan Murphy?
Gosh, Jordan Murphy.
I'm like, this feels like Jordan Murphy. But I'm with you on that take.
But point being, the Big Ten does not play a sexy brand of basketball. Never has. Needs to start getting there. Whether that's more commitment from the conference, from the coaches, the schools, I don't know. But the Big Ten can't pass up opportunities for primetime eyeballs, right? Especially last year with a national championship contender in Purdue. Especially this year with, say, UCLA, Oregon off to a hot start, right? Illinois will draw some eyeballs, I think. Sitting on the side is not a good look, right? When you can have Michigan State, North Carolina in Maui, great. But you could also have, Michigan State, Duke outside the champions class. You could have Duke, Indiana, matchup of those programs. You could have Purdue go on the road and I would say play Maryland, except they're a Big Ten school now. So I guess you get that going on. It just seems such a big missed opportunity for the conference to highlight a product that needs to improve. But what better way to do it than, hey, add some TV money and let's start investing in the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we hear all the time in the the discourse about football. We hear about the grand brands and the big brands, and like what I remember the most about the Big Ten ACC was those games where like Carolina would go to Assembly Hall. And it's forget about helmet games. How about a jersey game?
Pinstripes versus Argyle, baby.
How about a warm-ups game? That's a warm-ups game. Two iconic warm-ups, probably two of the more famous pairs of sweatpants in this country. But I mean, just things like that were what I remember the most about the Big Ten ACC challenge. And it was weird this week, with these challenges going on, and the Big Ten is playing conference games, and it honestly wasn't. It was kind of a crazy week in a way, with some of these conference results to open, but it was definitely quite the visual, looking at my my score app, and I'm just like, here are all these big time interconference challenges, and Big Ten's just playing conference games right now.
We will get to some Big Ten results at the end of the show if we have time, but let's dive into the basketball you watched in person this week. You made your second trip of the season up to the CHI Health Center. You got eyes on Kansas for the second time this season. You, I, and a mutual friend from here at the Ticket were talking about that game and some potential monetary interest in that one, shall we say. Yes. My thing this whole time for Creighton, Kansas, for those who didn't know, Kansas was only a 4-point favorite going into this one. I was not sure about that because Kansas has been clearly the better team to this point. You kind of felt like Creighton was due for some regression, and oh boy, did the Blue Jays progress back to their mean in this one.
Yeah, they did. That was, I put it out on my social medias. I'm like, this line stinks. Like, you can smell it. You can smell it from down the block. Kansas only being favored by 4.5, depending on where you look. And, after the Nebraska Creighton game a couple of weeks ago, I wrote that it was like deja vu, like a carbon copy of that game 2 years ago. That game on Wednesday night just was a carbon copy of UConn Creighton from a year ago.
Sure.
2 games in Omaha, 2 games against the number 1 team. I've made the joke that if the NCAA tournament was played on random weeknights in Omaha, Creighton would have more banners hanging in that building, because it is when they're at their best on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night in Omaha. That's where they've notched some of the bigger pelts on the wall for the Greg McDermott era. But my and I'm not trying to discredit Creighton by any means. They controlled that game from start to finish. That was a clinic in bad shot selection from the team in Lawrence, and I will beat my chest with this take, and I will die on this hill. There is no more frustrating player to watch in college basketball than Hunter Dickinson.
The floor is yours.
And I don't think there's a close second. As someone who has been in the building to watch this man play basketball twice in the span of a month, both times I have stood there just thinking, what the hell are you doing? You are 7'2". And there was a moment where I think Kansas was down 15-16. Like, oh, you need a shot, you need a cut stop, like stop the bleeding, like someone's got to get the tourniquet out, like somehow. And he just launches a top of the key 3, and I'm just like, what in the hell is he doing? You're 7'2". Do you know how much the money that he has been given by that university to play basketball, and they wanted him to come back. They paid him to
more
come back. They probably gave him more. And he just it's so incredibly frustrating to see somebody that big. Like, dude, go inside. Why are you so and this is not, I'm not trying to, slight Ryan Kalkbrenner. I mean, this is just the Creighton flu game, I guess, because he was clearly playing hobbled. We've heard about how Stephen Ashworth was thrown up at halftime. Pop Isaacs was sick. They ate the pizza. They ate the pizza, just them. But I mean, if you're Hunter Dickinson and you see a clearly not 100% Ryan Kalkbrenner, or there are instances where he's not on the floor, where's the high-low game, Bill Self?
That you're known for. That is your entire identity, Bill Self.
Where's the high-low game? You've got, if you were to make a player in a lab for the Kansas Bill Self high-low game, he'd look like Hunter Dickinson.
He would act like Hunter Dickinson too.
He would, and they don't run any of it. He was frustrating as hell to watch. KJ Adams was brutal, and I mean, I don't know if they're going to be any game. I mean, where DeJuan Harris has taken 21 shots.
21 shots! Jacob, this is where I need to stop you. DeJuan Harris took 21 shots.
Yeah.
That's more shots than he should take in a month
Yeah.
for this Kansas team. This is why I am out on Kansas, because of DeJuan Harris. He is a table setter. He is a defender. He is not Devontae Graham. He is not Frank Mason. He is not even Marcus Garrett. He is 3 steps down from Marcus Garrett. He is smaller. He cannot get a bucket. He is not the same defender. I am not a DeJuan Harris guy. And the fact that Bill Self allowed him to take 21 shots in a game where Creighton starts hot and Kansas cuts it to 1 point at 41-40. Coaching malpractice for all the high-low that they didn't get to. Coaching malpractice for KJ Adams not feasting on the block against Creighton's skinny fours defensively.
Oh, that was another part of it.
And the
too,
biggest
man.
thing is DeJuan Harris took 21 shots.
Yeah. I mean, it was it was cool to, I mean, the number one team's in town. You don't stay home. You just don't.
No.
That's why I was there. I was getting tweets like, you rooting for Creighton? Come on. The number one team is in town. There's a significant basketball game. I'm there. I'm in the building. That is why I'm there. And just to see, I've had mixed thoughts on Kansas since before the season. I watched them play at an instant classic against North Carolina where they looked incredible, and then they looked awful, and then they somehow pulled it out when they went from looking incredible to awful to just okay to finish it off at Allen Fieldhouse. And then they put on that showing that they did on Wednesday night. I mean, definitely a lot of, mean, they weren't going to run the table. I just didn't think they were. I didn't think they were the number one team in the country this week. The team that I did think was the number one team in the country also lost on the same night.
And we will get to that one. Don't you worry.
Yep.
I was particularly invested in that.
Indeed you were. But
so what you're saying is Creighton is not necessarily fixed. Kansas just might be a little broken.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, Creighton wasn't just gonna crater, and they weren't just gonna, be a torpedo to the bottom of the Big East because of how they start their season. That's how I feel like every season under Greg McDermott in recent memory has started. There's some hiccup where people are like, oh, do they stink? And then they get into Big East play and it's like, oh no, they don't. Like they don't. They do play a Mountain West school on Saturday. The Mountain West has been the bringer of horrors to Creighton in some recent memory,
Isaiah
recent years.
Stevens stand up.
Yeah, Isaiah Stevens, and he's just up the road in Sioux Falls. He heard Creighton and his eyes perked up a little bit. But they got UNLV on Saturday, and then they go to Alabama next weekend. I'm really interested to see how they look on the road at Alabama. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think Kansas was flawed. But I think that Creighton it was just a matter of time before they have a night where they shoot the lights out. And if you're getting 6 of 9 from 3 from eternal shot chucker Pop Isaacs, that might have been the best game of Pop Isaacs' career. Honestly,
arguably, yeah.
It was the most efficient one for damn sure.
Right.
Look at that box score. Like his shooting percentage, he rebounded it well. He had assists. That might have been the most efficient basketball game in his career. And it couldn't have happened on a bigger stage so far for him.
And I would say he's somewhat familiar with Kansas, but not this Kansas team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not familiar with AJ Storr, Zeke Mayo, David Coy, any of those guys. Elsewhere in the Big East, Big 12 battle, it's a conference challenge that is ongoing. It won't wrap up until we get an absolute slobber knocker of a game in a couple days. Oklahoma State at Seton Hall. Miss me with that. Poor Butler has to go to Houston.
Oh, no.
Kansas State, St. John's is fascinating in some ways to me tomorrow. Tonight we get Georgetown, West Virginia, and here's where I will plant my flag and bring back the 2007 to 2013 Big East. But my favorite basketball conference of all time. Xavier, blah, TCU beats them. Pretty mid TCU team. BYU, Providence, Igor Demine, not his best showing. Providence needed it, had to have it. But there is not a needed it, had to have it game bigger than Cincinnati for Villanova.
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati looks the part of a second weekend team. And then they go to Philly and do that?
Yeah,
Kyle Neptune might have saved his job.
That might. I mean, it's at least going to get him to the new year.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'll call him Kyle Neptune. I will slander. Rare for me to slander anyone. I'm full of. I'm looking at you, camera. I am full of love, no vitriol, no hate. Rare for me to slander anyone, but I will slander Kyle Neptune for all eternity. And watching that game, I mean, Eric Dixon has to be pushing 40, but he also was pushing 40 points. I mean, he will get you buckets, man. The most confusing part of that team is Wooga Poplar's just kind of there. He's just kind of there, not doing much.
No. Just hanging out, having a good time, vibing in Philly.
You gave up Miami weather and Miami bags
and Miami shots
for that. I don't know why you just head scratching, but. That's why I'm not a college basketball player and I don't have these decisions to make. But that was definitely the biggest. You could make the argument for UConn too, as a Big East team who had to have it and they got it done after the week they had in Maui and the antics from their head man in the aftermath of that. But I mean, Villanova, they were the way their season started. It kind of felt like that was a ticking time bomb, and they got a little adrenaline shot, kind of out of nowhere against the top 15 team.
They did. Good for Villanova on that one. I'm still out on them. That is not a tournament team. Poor sweet DePaul has its hot start ended by Texas Tech. Just crushed the life out of him. We all saw that one coming. You mentioned UConn. They beat Baylor. Wild team construction. If the guards aren't good, Baylor's in trouble. That is one of these. It's Rutgers, but you don't have an Ace Bailey size guy. You got VJ Edgecombe. You got Robert Wright, you got Jeremy Roach in that backcourt. But Baylor might be
and Norchad,
right? But again, that's part of the small. Right? Again,
Yeah.
Giving up the Miami bag, I guess, for a Baylor bag. Okay, whatever, fine for you. college basketball needs characters. We talked about that one of the first episodes you run. Good on Dan Hurley. He stayed true to form in Maui. I'm not mad at Dan Hurley for his sideline antics, right? That's just who he is. We need some of that. Good for him, BU. I am pissed at Dan Hurley for looking like a front runner when saying he doesn't want to go to Maui anymore.
Yeah.
It is the same crap that Cal pulled after Kemba gave it to Brandon Knight.
Mhm.
We need these big brands in these tournaments. It was so good. It was so fun. Don't tuck your tail between your legs. Don't take your ball and go home. Get better. I thought Dan Hurley was a get better, embrace the challenge guy. Really disappointing rhetoric from him.
Yeah, it's just the thing that came into my mind was what's the Michigan running back?
Edwards?
No, Mullings.
Oh,
right?
Kalel Mullings. Yeah.
Mullings.
Oh, yeah, you got to learn how to
Some people
lose.
got to learn how to lose.
Yeah,
Like, that's just
yeah.
kind of like some people got to learn how to lose. Like, that was the thing that popped into my head. Seeing those Dan Hurley quotes. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a college basketball coach and thinking I'm too good for the Maui Invitational. Like, like you want to try to turn your nose up at 1, Maui, 2, everything that comes with that
Maui.
tournament, the Lahaina Civic Center, everything that comes into the Maui Invitational. Like, I could sound like, Shakespeare professing love talking about the Maui Invite, but I won't. I mean, I could. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I mean, that's definitely, UConn finishing dead last in the 8-team field in Maui was definitely not what anyone expected. I'm sure it's not what Dan Hurley expected, and that probably played into the reaction from him. But, I mean, you definitely just got to learn how to, take your L and take your ball and go on to the next one. It's a long season. It's not the Final Four. That's why they, you've been to the last 2. You've been the last team standing in the last 2 Final Fours. It's a long season, and no one's cutting nets down in November.
The only other game worth talking about here, the last one, was the top 6 matchup in Hilton just last night, Marquette and Iowa State. I was excited for this game. I'm an ESPN Plus guy, so I was able to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I get the behind-the-scenes contract stuff, but it was stupid to keep this game on ESPN Plus. Find a way to flex it, make it up later. It would have been worth it. Kind of an anticlimactic game. I'm not going to lie. I get Hilton Magic. Iowa State is really good. I expected a little bit more out of Marquette. I'm not worried about them per se. I just wanted to see a little bit more for a game of this magnitude. Credit Iowa State. They looked the part. I wanted a little more from Shaka and the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, I kind of wanted that game to be a root canal on a basketball court because I know those 2 teams are capable of making any game a root canal or a meat grinder on a basketball court, especially those guards. I mean, they're so tough. And Keyshawn Gilbert, the start to the year that Keyshawn Gilbert is off to, not enough people were talking about it. He has been a dude in all of Iowa State's, especially in all of Iowa State's big games. He was a dude in Maui when they played Auburn and the games that followed. And I kind of just wanted to see him and Cam Jones just trade heaters, and then Cam Jones goes 6 for 21.
The DeJuan Harris.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, 21 shots. Tough night to take 21 shots. But I mean that game. I mean, Hilton Magic, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it TJ Otzelberger, who is a Wisconsin native. I'm sure that game meant a little extra to him where he's from. And they definitely, they controlled that one from the jump. They threw the first 5 punches, not just the first one, and they never had to look back. That result was never really in doubt.
It really was. I mean, you hold Marquette scoreless for 6 minutes. Iowa State had its own drought even in putting up 81 points, but good game. Glad they played the game. Excited to see more of the Big East, Big 12 battle. We're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to turn our attention to the ACC SEC Challenge. This is what the Big Ten is losing out on. And here's the thing. The SEC officially beat up the ACC, took all its lunch money, took its routing number and everything. SEC is better than the ACC. We'll break it down next year on the Corner 3.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Nebraska's Christmas Light Show is back and bigger than ever. The Magical Lights of Lincoln Christmas Show runs from Black Friday through New Year's Eve at Sandhills Global Event Center. Bring the family for a show they'll never forget, featuring over 1.5 million lights. Cost is $25 per vehicle from Monday through Thursday, $30 on Friday and Saturday, and also $30 on Christmas Eve and Day. Purchase your tickets online today at ChristmasLightsInLincoln.com and get ready to experience a drive-through light show like you've never seen before.
The Body Lab, located at 14th and Yankee Hill, is Lincoln's premier physical therapy and recovery lab. The Body Lab offers trigger point dry needling, cupping therapy, joint manipulation, and so much more. Looking to relax and relieve stress after a long day or difficult workout? The Body Lab's recovery lab is the ideal spot. Featuring infrared sauna, a cold plunge tub, or if you're just looking for enough space to stretch out and reset your mind. Learn more about memberships and schedule your service today at thebodylablnk.com. Or visit the Body Lab in person at 14th and Yankee Hill Road.
Automotive Solutions is Lincoln's one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs, from vinyl wraps to engine repair and maintenance. Automotive Solution offers fleet services as well as printing and graphic design for vinyl applications, plus installation of vinyl for boats, trucks, cars, and anything else you want wrapped. Perfection is their standard, and they never settle for less. Call today at 531-249-5600 or go to automotivesolutionslincoln.com to learn more. That's Automotive Solutions, 2040 Southwest 5th Street in Lincoln.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and the holiday sales event is now underway with unbelievably low interest rates and huge discounts on both our new and pre-owned inventory. Right now, we're offering 0% interest rates or $13,000 off select new models. These are the absolute biggest discounts of the year. You heard right, 0% interest rates or $13,000 off select new models. So please stop on in or check us out online at CoppelCars.com. All deals with approved credit, must trade, and Costco.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see lots of sunshine with light winds, national high around 48. Tonight, mostly clear skies and calm winds with a low around 26. And tomorrow, we'll see mostly sunny skies return with a light breeze and a high near 60. I'm meteorologist Kyle Fletcher from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
The ACC has officially lost credibility. If it hadn't before, it is officially gone. Austin Oerman, Jacob Bigelow with you here on the Corner 3, featuring a Stretch Big podcast. Give Jacob a follow, Jacob A. Bigelow, and Stretch Big Pod on Twitter. I'm on the Bird site at Austin_Oerman. Do you want to start with the 14 wins for the SEC or the 2 for the ACC, Jacob?
I think you start with the 2 because, Austin, I just moonlight as a writer, but one thing I have not written yet is an obituary. And I'm here to write an obituary for a once great league that is upon very, very hard times, and that is the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference. Or as you mentioned with credibility, all credibility canceled is what I'm calling the ACC from here on out, because what a mess.
The ACC might be a 4-bid league.
Maybe.
Might be a 4-bid
league. Maybe.
Duke beats Auburn at Cameron in a game that was far too close for comfort. Blue Devils still do not know how to punch first, but at least they know how to punch back. Cooper Flagg needs to learn how to shoot, but hey, give the ball to Tyrese Proctor late. I'm a fan of that man. He might be taking the Wendell Moore leap. Auburn, number 2 team in the country at the time. I don't know if they're number 1 in the country good, but they certainly had number 1 resume going into Cameron. Always going to be a tough ask. But Duke's lost that game before, and that's just one Duke needed to have even at home because of the neutral losses to a team we'll get to here in a sec, as well as the team we just got to in Kansas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that game, I was really high on Auburn. I am a big proponent of the Maui bump. After they, did what they did in the Maui Invitational, I'm like, they might be the best team in the country. Like, they might be a wagon. Like, they might be all of it. And then, of course, their first game out the chute is a true roadie at Cameron, which is, one of the tougher environments in all of college basketball. My biggest thing with Auburn right now is, those 2 games against Alabama are going to be theater. They're going to be appointment viewing, but so is the majority of the SEC, because we live in a world where the SEC is the best conference in college basketball.
Who would have imagined, just even like 15 years ago, let alone even 5 years ago? The only other win for the ACC was arguably the second best team in the conference right now, Clemson.
Yeah.
Gets it done against Kentucky, a team that was undefeated in the top 5 at the time. 4 straight wins at home over top 5 teams for Brad Brownell and the Tigers. Good for them. They never really put Kentucky away. Some frustrating shot selection late by Otega Oweh, the Oklahoma transfer to Kentucky. Good on little old Clemson. They keep rolling. Brad Brownell might be the best coach on campus right now.
Brad Brownell, who multiple people have called a cockroach because it feels like he's been on the hot seat for a decade, and he's still there, and he's still kicking, and they're gonna, pull an Elite Eight out of nowhere, where and just randomly be like, Clemson basketball, what? And well, guess what? Clemson basketball is pretty good, and we talked about Ian Shefflin in the first segment. He's one of the most underappreciated players in the country. He's kind of the ultimate if you know guy early on in the season. That game, I've been in that building. It's an interesting place to play.
Little John Coliseum.
It's a big hole in the ground, and
just like Carver
and
Hawkins.
that game was a classic 9:30 local time tip. It did not end until almost midnight local time in the middle of the week. Shout out to our corporate television overlords for that start time and finish. But yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely a case to be made that Clemson is the second best team in the ACC, and yeah, I think they're not getting talked about enough, and they got a guy who's definitely not getting talked about enough in Shefflin.
Let's just go through these games one by one, and we'll get to the SEC superiority thing, big picture at the end. If there's anything interesting you have on any of these games, stop me. Georgia beats Notre Dame by 21, but Marcus Burton is out. So, okay, props to Georgia. They win that game in Athens. Not too concerned about Notre Dame. Good for Georgia. South Carolina over Boston College in the Meh Fest. Colin Murray-Boyles is certainly a player. Arkansas, Miami had my attention for a little bit. Miami is not broke, but broken.
Oh yeah. I've been confused this last couple of years of Jim Larinaga openly being referred to as Coach L. That's something I'd never want to be referred to as a coach, because now Coach L is just taking L's. And after the roster attrition that they had this past year with Norchad and Wooga taking off, I mean, that's that run to the Final Four that wasn't that long ago feels forever ago now for Miami.
Arkansas is every John Calipari team of the last 10 years as well. So I really thought he had changed the stripes a little bit last year in modernizing, but Arkansas is just Kentucky, but red. So good for them. Mizzou on the board. They beat Cal 98-93 in a barn burner. Poor Syracuse had to face Tennessee in Tennessee. That was never going to go well for them. A&M and Wake Forest in College Station. Palpable Buzz Williams gets it done by a baker's dozen. And Wake Forest, to me, is one of the disappointments in the ACC. Steve Forbes, I love the coach, his wife, and the stroke and everything going on. It's a lot, right? It's a lot on his plate. Good guy, Steve Forbes. Those pieces are not fitting together in where's Wake Forest? I'm forgetting. Winston-Salem. I don't know why that's pieces are not fitting together in Winston-Salem right now. I'm not going to say Hunter Salas should have left. I think that he can still be a really good player. But man, Wake Forest does not have many opportunities to get this ship right.
Yeah, their lack of a point guard is a very glaring problem.
Yeah.
And
more so than even Nebraska last year.
Absolutely. And Hunter Salas having to play the point guard is a part of the problem, because he's got to be their go-to guy, their leading scorer. But if he's also going to be the guy that has to initiate offense and set the table, then that just makes it hard. And they brought Hunter back, they brought back Cam Hildreth. One-time Nebraska recruit Parker Fredrickson, hoping to take a jump going into his sophomore season. I mean, you like the pieces on paper, but it just has not. Efton Reed, yep, and Omaha Baloo, who got hurt, and what we'll see if we hear from him. But I mean, that's you look at those pieces on paper, and it was hard to not like them. But I mean, they're definitely one of the more disappointing teams, because they missed the tournament last year, and you're hoping that they'd bounce back and get over the hump this year, and it is not trending that way right now.
A sentence I never imagined saying is losing Andrew Carr would be such a big blow. He's been playing pretty well for Kentucky, and I didn't realize he was so important for Wake.
He has. I mean, you could definitely I'd rather still have him on that roster than some of the everything else, that's for sure. And I know I've had the chance to talk to Coach Forbes. Great guy, knows what he's doing. He's a great dude, and he's one of the guys you want to see succeed, just because of who he is as a coach and as a person. And it's just tough sledding for them right now.
LSU over Florida State, another Memphis. Oklahoma continues its surprising run from Atlanta's 15-point win over Georgia Tech. This is a game I thought was going to be a little bit better, but of course, injuries are just decimating Louisville right now. I thought they would be a tournament team coming in. I really did. I'm a Pat Kelsey guy. I really liked a lot of the pieces. I thought there was enough talent. I was a little low on Ole Miss. Ole Miss does not strike me as the Chris Beard that I know. From Stephen F. Austin to Texas, this didn't strike me as this is a Chris Beard team. I thought the identity would clash. Ole Miss can put up points, man. They can score.
Yeah.
I expected more for Louisville, but I'm willing to give Pat Kelsey a little bit of a write-off with all the injuries right now. So a somewhat resurgent Louisville team early being decimated by injuries is leading to some of the down ACC narrative too.
Absolutely. Man, just think about, I've still got the picture I took on my TV of when they were up almost 40 on Indiana in Atlantis. And the injuries have been, it's been next level. They can't catch a break. And there were people who, obviously, the bar wasn't just on the floor. It was 6 feet underground for Pat Kelsey, taking over for Kenny Payne at Louisville. But that's a tough scene for them. And, I like what we've seen out of Chucky Hepburn early on. I think he may have played two of, if not the two best games of his college career in Atlantis against Indiana and West Virginia. But to watch the guys around him just dropping like flies, due to injury, that's just unfortunate.
If you want to see Jacob Bigelow squirm, get to stream in the next 10 seconds here, because this is going to be one that you're not going to want to answer. Who's having the better year, Chucky or John Tanji?
Ooh.
Who's having the better year?
Right now, I'd say Tanji.
Really?
Just because he's on a better team right now. Just a team that's won more games. And that is no slight to Chucky Hepburn at all. He, took the mic after that West Virginia game and he said, "I'm one of the best point guards in the country. I need to be respected like I'm one of the best point guards in the country." And, he sure looked like it. And I think there'll be times this year where he, reminds people of what he can do. And, and that is not my, looking at you again, camera, that is not my Omaha Central bias. That is not my connection to John Tanji's story playing into that answer. But I think right now it's tough to not choose John because he, people forget he was committed to New Mexico. And Wisconsin kind of swooped in and, they picked him up at the 11th hour and people were like, how desperate is Greg Gard? Like, how desperate is he? And when I was in Chicago at Big Ten Media Day, I'm asking Wisconsin people, like, what's the word on Tanji? And they're like, we don't know. Like, he's kind of like the mystery guy. Like, we know what's coming back. And, they're just like, we don't know. And then after the, season opener, I, got some DMs from Wisconsin people. They're like, yeah, this Tanji guy's kind of good. And I'm like, I tried to tell you, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. So right now I'd have to lean toward John.
Wrapping up the ACC SEC challenge here, you have Alabama beating North Carolina. Tar Heels are one of the smallest teams in the country. That front court is abysmal. Alabama still refuses to play any defense. I doubt they replicate their Final Four run. Talent is certainly there. Florida.
You can talk about injuries with them too.
True.
You can talk about injuries with them too. Yeah,
it sucks.
Trelly, man. Speaking of Central guys, there's that bias of mine again. And then them.
Here's Omaha Central engagement farm.
Yeah, there's me just looking for that sweet Omaha Central engagement. I don't think Alabama had to put out a graphic that made it look like Trelly passed away after he tore his ACL. That was not good. That was a little. I'm
kind
like
of funny, but not good.
Yeah, no, like I'm obviously wishing him a speedy recovery. He's been playing outstanding to start the season. And you could talk about injuries with Alabama too. They're still deep, but I don't know if they're playing any defense. And you were getting ready to talk about Florida, who I'm very fascinated by as well.
They are an offensive wagon, despite everything going on with Todd Golden. Like, we have not properly addressed what's going on with Todd Golden. I don't really care to, because it's kind of weird if it's true or not. I was a Todd Golden guy coming out of San Francisco. I'm glad to see it working for Florida. We did have a text here about Olivier Rioux, the 7'9" dude.
Yes.
That Matt Painter is still kicking himself every night he didn't get to the Purdue big, tall, foreign white man factory.
Yeah, I watched him play in person at a Adidas summer ball tournament up in Omaha, and I'm just like, that was just what I was asking people. I'm like, he got a Purdue offer yet? Purdue here? Purdue ain't on him?
Purdue,
there's like,
he's ED 2.0. Purdue.
I think originally he was committed to like Florida Atlantic, and then Florida swooped in and
could have been the next Vlad Golden.
I guess, yeah, something like that. We didn't. Speaking of Big Ten, you want to talk about just big guys flying into people, Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf. But they are. I like this Florida team. I like the look of them. I have no comment on the situation involving their head coach, aside from Shout out student journalism.
Yeah, right.
But the rest of they're separating the art from the artist. I'll separate the team from the coach. The pieces they have, the players they have, they could definitely make some noise as the season goes on, because they're pretty fun to watch.
Texas over NC State, Vanderbilt over Virginia Tech. Mike Young is kind of in the Steve Forbes boat right now. The one that I probably shouldn't have been as surprised as I was was Mississippi State over Pitt. I would have given Mississippi State the AP poll ranking over Pitt. Ain't played nobody. I'm a Capel guy, right? I want Duke to put him in his place when they go to Cameron and whatnot. Pitt's good. They've done a good job of scheduling more difficult. That's what kept them out last year. Arguably was the wretched non-conference strength of schedule, and a down ACC didn't do them any favors. Mississippi State looks legit, man. Josh Hubbard is a dude. I am intrigued by what's going on there in Stark Vegas.
Yeah, I feel like Mississippi State and Pitt are like always playing. Like, I don't know if it's they're in like some like third-rate bowl game, or they're in the NIT,
the first four.
The first four. I feel like Mississippi State is always playing Pitt. Like they're they're star-crossed. Like somehow they're always going to wind up against each other. But yeah, Chris Jans has himself a team, and I know when people think basketball, kind of one of the last places in the country they're going to think is Starkville, Mississippi. But if anyone is dare I say crazy enough to make basketball happen in Starkville, it's Chris Jans, and I'm interested to see how their team progresses, because I like their pieces. It's just going to be a matter of wins and losses, because they're I can't say it enough. They are in the best basketball conference in the country that is deep from top to bottom, and that league is going to be a war.
And there's no one following us, so we have time to flesh this out a little bit. Just last year, this series was tied 7-7. You add another game, but the SEC had 7 wins to its tally. We gotta credit a friend of your pod, Garth Glissman, Lincoln native, for his investment there. Credit SEC Football Money, I'm sure, for spurring some of this as well. I don't know if I am more disappointed for the ACC or excited for the SEC, but if this wasn't the wake-up call the ACC needed, it has been slipping, riding the coattails of, we might not get many teams in, but we're going to make runs. Duke, Carolina, NC State just last year, all to the Elite Eight. Syracuse, it's, bull hooky Final Four runs from time to time. Clemson's been playing a little bit better as well. The ACC is not a basketball power. The ACC has gotten basketball complacent, whereas the SEC said, hey, we're taking everyone's lunch money in football right now. We have this reputation. It's our turn to go do this in basketball. The SEC has passed the ACC, which is going to always pride itself on basketball. The SEC has passed the Big Ten very clearly in terms of style of play, aesthetically, and honestly, dare I say, in terms of investment into basketball. Big East isn't big enough and is off to a wretched start this year as well. And dare I say, the SEC is as deep as the Big 12, and the upper level teams in the SEC probably have the Big 12 by a hair. We've seen that play out on the court this year. No one saw the little old SEC basketball conference coming.
Yeah.
But Jacob, they have been building to this. They earned this 14-2 result in this conference challenge.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because, when you think of the SEC, people they'll give you the it just means more thing. And up until, recently, you obviously think SEC football because football is king. And when you hear it just means more, the second sport you probably think of is baseball because of the SEC baseball culture and everything that comes around, that comes along with that. But I think that, it is a credit to the league. I think it's a credit to these athletic directors. Look at the coaches in that conference from top to bottom. Look at the coaches in that conference. You got some pit bulls, some alphas. I think that's the deepest. I think that's the deepest group of coaches in the country, and it's you've heard me say it already. It's the deepest conference in the country, and that's a credit to those institutions, to those athletic directors, and from top to bottom in the league for the emphasis that they've put on, like, hey, we know y'all know, and I'm not just saying y'all because it's the SEC. We know y'all know about football, but like we can play basketball too, and they have made a statement to start the year.
It can't be hopeless, right? These things are cyclical. It's been the ACC's time for a while. It was the Big East time before that. Big Ten certainly had its run. I don't want to be reductionist and just tell the ACC higher, better. You have two of the blue bloodiest of blue blood programs in your league. But losing someone as, I don't say insignificant, right? But Maryland's not a power player nationally, but they're ACC fabric. They absolutely were. I think the ACC just lost itself. It got fat and happy. It said, yeah, Maryland, we don't need you. We got Duke. We got Carolina. We're good. Virginia falling off hasn't helped. Now that I'm a fan of how Virginia plays, it's not just as simple as hire better or recruit better, but maybe it is. The SEC has dominated the good hires recently, right? And if you're depending on Mark Byington at Vanderbilt, if you're relying on Virginia Tech and Wake Forest to turn it around, yeah, that's not in a good spot. This starts with Jim Phillips in the commissioner's office. How do we as a conference recommit to basketball? How do we make this our identity? But right now, I think what the SEC did was probably not intentional, but low-key genius with football. It took the ACC's eye off the ball. The SEC could afford to focus more on basketball because of where football's at. Right now, the ACC can't afford to focus on basketball. It's got to keep Florida State. It's got to keep Clemson and those schools in for the football money. And while the ACC was looking at its second sport, the SEC said, okay, now's where we go focus on our second sport and make it better than your first sport.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC right now, I mean, it's just the call is coming from inside the house because you don't know what the next development's going to be. You don't know what the next, who wants to sue who's looking into what. I mean, from top to bottom, I mean, bring your brooms because it's a mess. That's the ACC right now. Yeah. And, the SEC, and it's the power. It's everything. It's star power. It's TV money. It's everything. And I'm not looking to slight any of the coaches in the ACC, but I mean just think of the brands in the ACC. Duke's head coach is John Shire. North Carolina's head coach is Hubert Davis. I mean, who is the most widely known? Those are the two most widely known coaches in that league, and the rest of them. I mean, especially now that Tony Bennett's retired. I mean, it's just kind of, there's the lack of star power. I mean, and people will, moan and groan whenever people try to hype up, Duke, North Carolina, when those two, meetups come. But I mean, that's kind of all.
What else do you have? What else do you have?
That's what kind of all the league has right now. Unless someone decides to beat Duke and there's discourse about court storming, and that just seems to be the only thing that is coming about in the ACC. And it's as someone who grew up on Super Tuesday, Big Monday, all that, those Duke, Maryland, and the old ACC games. I mean, it really is a shame. It really is, because Duke and North Carolina are still Duke and North Carolina, but the rest of that league, and it's not just basketball. It's all the sports. That league has fallen behind in so many ways.
It really has. I despise Louisville and never want them to win a game. I just hate everything about that institution. I don't know why. They just rubbed me the wrong way. But guess what? You lost Rick Pitino. Chris Mack had that team ranked number 1 in the country. And then it all fell apart. Right? So you lose Pitino. Syracuse. Hate Syracuse. In Boeheim. I don't like the man, right?
Yeah.
I would tell him that to his face. Okay, I probably wouldn't, right? I'd shake his hand and say, hey, coach, how you doing? Whatever. But, don't respect how Syracuse plays. I just don't. You lose Boeheim. That's good for 6 or 7 headlines a year.
Oh, yeah.
You lose those two high-power coaches alongside Duke and Carolina. Pitt is not what it was under Jamie Dixon. Vandy is not what it was.
Vandy's SEC.
Well, I know, but true. I just think of Pitt, Vandy, those games, that caliber of team. Who is the ACC's, Vandy that was always a 4 to 7 seed.
Yeah.
I don't know. NC State isn't back to where it was. Virginia is struggling. Virginia Tech had a 2-year run. You just don't have the star power. You don't have any budding under the surface rivalries. And Clemson's a football school.
And then now SMU, Cal, and Stanford are just in the ACC in basketball now, which is extra weird. And it's just extra goofy. But like I said, the ACC, all credibility canceled. That's where I'm at with the ACC, not just in basketball after how their week went, but it's just not a good time. Not a good time to be the ACC right now.
It is not a good time to be the ACC. It is a good time for us to go to break. Have a couple questions on the text line we'll address to wrap up corner 3.
Discover the difference that expertise and experience can make in your real estate journey with Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Whether you need an appraisal, sales, or farm management, Next Ag comes up with a solution with your legacy and goals in mind. Next Ag isn't just their name, it's your future. So why wait? Visit their website today at www.nextagrealestate.com or give them a call at 402-380-0432 and turn your dreams into reality. Your land, your legacy, their solution. Next Ag Appraisal and Realty.
Nebraska's Christmas Light Show is back and bigger than ever. The Magical Lights of Lincoln Christmas Show runs from Black Friday through New Year's Eve at Sandhills Global Event Center. Bring the family for a show they'll never forget, featuring over 1.5 million lights. Cost is $25 per vehicle from Monday through Thursday, $30 on Friday and Saturday, and also $30 on Christmas Eve and Day. Purchase your tickets online today at ChristmasLightsInLincoln.com and get ready to experience a drive-through light show like you've never seen before.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call John Henrys at 402-435-5555 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-435-5555.
Automotive Solutions is Lincoln's one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs, from vinyl wraps to engine repair and maintenance. Automotive Solution offers fleet services as well as printing and graphic design for vinyl applications, plus installation of vinyl for boats, trucks, cars, and anything else you want wrapped. Perfection is their standard, and they never settle for less. Call today at 531-249-5600 or go to automotivesolutionslincoln.com to learn more. That's Automotive Solutions, 2040 Southwest 5th Street in Lincoln. Come enjoy a show of the Midwest's best MMA fighters on Saturday, December 7th with Violence Fight League 2 at the Complex, the former location of Champions Fun Center. Fights are scheduled throughout the night, and if you haven't been before, now is the perfect time to go, with Nebraska football in between the regular season and a bowl game. Doors open at 6 p.m. with the first bout at 7 p.m. Learn more about the fighters and buy tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
That's right. This is the Corner 3. Just a few minutes left. There's prep hoops to check out for Jacob Bigelow, my partner in crime tonight. Did you see the Southwest versus East fireworks last night?
I did see that. I thought we were through with sportsmanship discourse until I saw that break. But that's what happens when you get city games in the opening week to start the year. And I got a big one tonight down at Southeast, between Southeast and Lincoln North Star. Shameless plug / shout out to fellow member of the former Nebraska basketball manager fraternity, Coach Joey Warning and the Knights.
There you go. We won't keep you too long. I know you want to get down there and check out your sick gear. You showed me some pictures of that. It's pretty cool stuff. Texter 1000 said, I think Nebraska will beat Michigan State tomorrow. I don't know, man. Spartans 4.5-point favorites going into this one. Before we get into predictions or picks or matchups, Frankie Fiddler, your impressions of him in East Lansing so far?
He's kind of not turned a new leaf, but had a new little jolt since they took him out of the starting lineup. Coming in off the bench, he's still playing extensive minutes. He's their second leading scorer on the year, and I like what I've seen from him. I figured there's going to be an adjustment period, going from Summit League, and they looked pretty good at the barn the other night, going up against Big Ten competition. So I liked what I've seen from Frankie, and I think I'm hoping he continues, because I think Tom Izzo, that feels like classic Izzo mind games, taking in one of the few transfers you have taken in the last couple of years. He gets thrown into the starting lineup, and then you're like, you know what, will light a fire under him. We're gonna bench him, and he's still gonna play extensive minutes.
It is classic Tom Izzo. This is not vintage Izzo in terms of talent. I don't think. The guards intrigue me. I think that Michigan State can get some stuff done on the perimeter against Nebraska at times. But, Jacob, I am so far out on Michigan State's bigs.
Yeah.
Xavier Booker thinks he's a stretch 4. He's hitting the backboard more than he's hitting the rim. Simon Zapala, excuse me, what? Bless you. And Jackson Kohler does not move the needle for me. He does not scare me.
You're telling me you're not scared of a guy who wears double armbands? But
I'm not, and the Batman mask hasn't necessarily unlocked superpowers for him.
And I think that's why I like the matchup for Nebraska.
Hello. Okay.
And that is even possibly without Berke Buitengel.
My gut's telling me he doesn't play.
Yeah, but I kind of like the matchup for Nebraska, because we've seen this team's ability to just put up the barrier in the paint. And I think that, they haven't seen a team with the athleticism that Michigan State has quite yet, which I think
They'll be fast.
They'll be fast. They will, I'm sure Cohen Carr will be trying to put someone or multiple people on posters because he can jump out of the gym. But
the stuff he did during warmups last year in Michigan State I had to take my job off.
Oh, yeah.
The man can jump.
No, he is a freak athlete. And I didn't say freak basketball player. I said freak athlete. There is a difference.
Distinct.
But
Stanley Johnson, but more athletic.
Yeah. I mean, I like them. I like the matchup for Nebraska. Just the defensive edge for them. We've shown that they can, clog up the paint. I'm not saying that they're going to go full, fire drill, running out to shooters, the scramble drill like we saw in Omaha a couple weeks ago. They could, though. I wouldn't put it past them. But I don't think they're going to have to, shadow the post with Simon Zapala or Jackson Kohler as much as they would against some other bigs in this league. I like the matchup for Nebraska. I think they've got a good shot at it, and I think I think that that St. Mary's game, looking back on it now, and I'm not even talking about the result, but I think that definitely lit something with this group, and the intensity we've seen from them these past couple weeks, and just the edge that Fred Hoiberg said they lost that edge a little bit defensively against South Dakota, but I mean they're putting up almost 100 points. I mean it's you give and take if you're able to score the ball like they have been, and I think that they could get off to a nice start with this game tomorrow, and then no matter how the result goes, words a Friday night primetime game on Big Fox a week from tonight against Indiana. They could get off to a hot start with good results in both these games.
I will give Nebraska a little bit of slack against South Dakota because they lose Juwan Gary after 2.5 minutes to an eye poke, and Berke Boyitangel goes down with the whole hip thing. And those are two of their more energetic defenders at the very least. So, okay, give them some slack for that. They found a way to make it work. I asked Fred Hoiberg what the win against Michigan State here in Lincoln did for the team last year. He was very polite in answering the question, didn't want to talk about last year. He gave me the whole, it's two different teams. That win doesn't mean anything for this year, which, hey, coach, it wasn't the point. I was asking you what it did for you last year and trying to figure out, could a win do the same? That was a really good basketball game last year. Really high-level basketball game, 77-70, Nebraska win. I don't know if that's the win that sparked the team after a tough loss to Creighton, right? Similar point in the schedule, similar game, getting it on the road. I do think that this year, it can be an even bigger spark for Nebraska. If they find a way to go on the road to Breslin, get it done at a similar point in the schedule, I do think that this could be, I don't want to say another turning point because it seems like Nebraska's turned the corner to some degree, but I think going on the road and beating Michigan State would be a huge feather in the cap, even though I'm a little bit down on Michigan State. I love the opportunity for Nebraska at this point in the schedule.
I do too. I mean, winning on the road in college basketball is hard. I mean, we saw it. We've seen it in the Big Ten. Purdue goes to the Bryce Jordan Center and gets punked by Penn State. The game I was at earlier this week, Kansas coming 3.5 hours up the road to Omaha, and they get punched in the mouth. I mean, winning on the road is hard, and it's all about the opportunity and what you make of it. I mean, I think Nebraska will, I think they can match the depth with Michigan State. I don't think they can, the athleticism is what, worries me a little bit, but I mean, I think it's going to definitely be the most athletic team they face. But I mean, I don't think it's going to be like the, Big Ten tournament last year because, Terrence Shannon Jr. is now walking through that door. And I don't, so that'd be, I mean, I still, I try to not make picks, but I think it's a favorable matchup for Nebraska tomorrow.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. 11 o'clock tip-off Central Time, noon Eastern. So early body clock game. Let's get some big noon out there.
Oh yeah.
If only. We'll see. No big noon tomorrow. Obviously, Fox is actually out at Boise tonight. Boise and UNLV. So good for them. Yeah. Covering the Mountain West.
Good for them. And how about that game being on the blue turf, not just a neutral site game somewhere, being on the blue turf? That's quite the visual.
It's the good stuff. Jacob, as always, appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Always a good time, and appreciate you having me. Always good to talk a little ball.
Jacob Bigelow, Jacob A. Bigelow on Twitter and at StretchBigPod. Austin Oerman at Austin_Oerman on the Bird site. For Jacob, I'm Austin. It's been a fun night. We'll talk to you tomorrow for Ticket Weekends.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth 90.